The election is coming. Oh my God, the election is coming. Welcome to the Onion Buns. So, Mark Carney has called the election. Not a surprise. I've been saying for 2 weeks now, Carney is absolutely terrified of his conflicts of interest coming to the light. That by calling this election for April 28th, he guarantees that the ethics commissioner that him and Justin Trudeau handpicked after firing the previous 2 ethics commissioners for not carrying water and covering up for Trudeau and Carney, that this ethics commissioner will not release his conflicts of interest by April 28th. That's all there is to it. Anyone with any common sense knows this, but anyway. So Carney has called the election. Well, what's this mean for Canada? Well, let's take a look through Twitter and see what's being said. We got the pleb. Election season in Canada is officially underway. Canadians will go to the ballot box on April 28th. Who are you voting for? I'm voting for Pierre Poilievre. That's not even a issue. One replier, unlucky designer. I mean, I didn't think Carney would actually pull the election on an early election. Glad I was proven wrong, but Poilievre has a lot of work to regain Canadians' votes since Carney has been making plagiarized promises he will never keep. And that's a very truthful statement. All of these promises Carney's making, he has no intention of keeping. All you got to do is listen to what he says when he's in the East compared to what he says in the West. He lies. There is a reason he's known as a pathological liar. As I was saying about his many possible conflicts, I replied, of course he did. Carney is terrified of his many conflicts coming to light. Calling election now means the ethics commissioner appointed by him and Trudeau, no less, will not release the conflicts before we go to the polls. And that's all this is. But here we have. Here are just some. This isn't even the full list, people. Some of Mark Carney's possible conflicts. Nuclear energy. He is, through Brookfield, he is invested in nuclear energy. Carbon capture and storage. Well, we've already heard he's going to push that strongly, and Brookfield already received, it was like $100 million, or it could have been more, contract from Carney yesterday for exactly that. Wind turbines. Is anyone surprised that Carney is heavily invested in wind turbines? Natural gas. Now, this one is not Canadian. He is invested heavily through Brookfield in Middle East natural gas. He's blocked, for the last 5 years, he's blocked natural gas in Canada. Heat pumps. Well, we already saw this. This explains why Justin went so hard trying to get all of Canada to sign up for heat pumps. Even gave it a huge subsidy. Now we know why. Battery energy storage. Again, his net zero real estate project. Yeah, everything he does drives up the cost of homes. Don't be fooled by it. Everything he does drives up the cost of homes, which benefits him. Green hydrogen. Here we go with net zero again. Canada pension funds. Now this one, I don't understand this, because everything Carney and Trudeau done over the last 5 years has hurt our pension funds. So maybe he's invested somewhere else in the world I'm not aware of, but in Canada, he's absolutely destroying our pension funds. Like, whether the left likes it or not, a big portion of our CPP is invested in Tesla. So by attacking Tesla, encouraging people to attack Tesla like Carney and Trudeau have been doing, that hurts us. That hurts us big time. We want Tesla at a high value, but it's dropping its value because of him. And just so we're clear, I'll never buy a Tesla. I'll never buy an EV. I don't care what this fucking asshole says. I won't buy them. I don't want them. I can't afford them. And yeah, so I'm not arguing in favor of Tesla. I'm just stating the business fact that we are heavily invested in Tesla, and it's in our own best interest to make Tesla profitable. Income tax laws. Yeah, I don't know that one. Real estate. Well, that's the same as real estate projects. He is driving up the cost of homes. And as he drives up the cost of homes, he profits. These are conflicts. These are what were supposed to be exposed before he called an election. Actually, these were supposed to be, if you went by the spirit of the law, he was supposed to disclose all this before he even ran for Liberal leadership. That's not how Carney works. He's a liar. He's corrupt. He's not a good man. He's really not. Oh, we got some Liberal trying to make hay. So yeah, so anyway. All right, here we have the Western Standard. Hanna Ford, the ballot question is, who can you trust? For better or worse, our business with President Trump will be over soon enough. The question then is, who can you trust to govern Canada afterwards? The ballot question. What is it that people are thinking about when they vote? The conventional wisdom is that it must be who Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre will best be able to correct Canada against U.S. President Trump. Okay, there is a hell of a lot more at stake in this election than Trump. And it is so disingenuous of any media outlet. And this Western Standard's accused of being pro-conservative all the time, but even they're going down this road. I still firmly believe tariffs will be sorted out as soon as the election's over, as soon as we have a legitimate government that we haven't had for 4 years now. Carney, you saw Trump is doing everything to get Carney elected. Everything. And somehow the mainstream media keeps ignoring this. Every frickin' day Trump comes out endorsing Carney and saying he wants a liberal government. He wants that because he knows that's the easiest route to get what he wants. It's not the best route for Canada. It's the best route for Donald Trump in America. Poilievre, Trump doesn't want Poilievre. Poilievre will not give in to Trump. He will negotiate. They will work out a deal. And I believe that regardless who's in office, the deal will get worked out. It's just the deal will be what's best for Canada. And we've already seen Mark Carney. He just does what Trump wants. That's all he does is actions speak louder than word. Trump was elected. 6 days later, Brookfield moves its asset management and hundreds of jobs from Toronto to New York City. There's another chart out. I'll see if I can dig it up for you where Brookfield, they've increased their investment in America and their investment in Canada has dropped into the negative. That is Mark Carney. That is who Mark Carney represents. So he's not going to stand up to Trump. He is going to sell Canada out as long as he can make a buck or two doing it. Poilievre, he's going to stand up for Canada. Whether you like him or not, he's going to stand up for Canada. All right. And in Western Canada, who do you trust, period? Western Canada is across the board Poilievre. I don't care what fake polls from Ecos and Main Street and Nanos and Angus Reid or Leger try to tell you. Alberta, Saskatchewan, even Manitoba, even BC, except for Vancouver, is about the Conservatives. We've had enough of 10 years. The Oilers are called a decade of darkness because they didn't make the playoffs for 10 years and they weren't a good team. I equate the last 10 years of Justin Trudeau and the last 5 years of Mark Carney to another decade of darkness. But it was a decade of darkness for Canada. First, Mark Carney, who last night announced his intention to seek office in Ottawa's Nippon riding, adjacent to the Nippon-Carleton riding held by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. The Nippon incumbent MP Chandra Arya, who attempted to join the Liberal leadership race but was refused, had his candidacy withdrawn by the party. He had his candidacy withdrawn because he's not a Mark Carney fan. He's spoken out about Mark Carney, as has Ruby Dalla, and they were both tossed aside. This is Mark Carney. If you don't mindlessly get behind him, you're gone. And he's doing this to his own party members. So what do you think he's going to do to Canada? In Western Canada, there is awkwardness to this election. Even people who are pro-America and like Trump don't care to be bullied by him. Very true. For many, therefore, even those who desire a more robust Western sovereignty, there is an understandable, even commendable instinct to rally around the Canadian flag. Very true. And having the advantage of holding power. The Liberals are waving it for all. Yeah, that's funny. You go back 2 years and the Liberals were disgusted with our flag. They were disgusted with Canada. They couldn't say anything good about us. But now they're wrapping themselves in the Canadian flag. It's fake, people. Again, actions speak louder than words. Just go fucking educate yourself. Look at their actions over the last 10 years. They don't care about Canada. On the other hand, Westerners recognize that Canada's vulnerability to being bullied at all is largely the consequence of Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney Liberal ministry. See, Carney has been a part of the Liberal Party for 5 years. The last 5 years. He has been a politician for the last 5 years. He just wasn't elected. But behind the scenes, he was pulling all of Justin's strings. So it's not, I hate Trudeau. I absolutely detest him. I wish nothing but hardship on him. But he's not only to blame here. Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, Christina Freeland, Doug Ford, Liberal Doug Ford, Jagmeet Singh, Elizabeth I Fall Down Nightly May. All of them have hurt Canada for the last 10 years. They are all Liberals or NDP. Well, they're all left-wingers to various degrees. Ford he's somewhere between far left and left wing, but he pretends to be a conservative. And then the rest of them are all extremist, radical, alt-left, globalists, or socialists. Further, a different worldview dominates Eastern politics. Yeah, we call that lunacy and stupidity. And sadly, guided by the former Prime Minister's sophomore understanding of politics, history, and morality, Liberal governments have, for nearly 10 years, mocked, abused, attacked, and dismantled those values Westerners did still share with Eastern Canada. Very true. I don't know if they still teach this in school, but in school, when I was a kid in the 1970s, we were taught about Upper and Lower Canada. Upper Canada was Ontario border east. Lower Canada, the peons, the dirty little peasants, the slaves, that was west. And that mentality is still largely in play today. And that's something that needs to change, because that mentality is going to tear Canada apart and destroy it. And it's got nothing to do with the West. It doesn't even have a lot to do with the East. This has to do with Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and a small section of Vancouver in the West. That's it. But they are the problem. We have written before about this, starting with Mr. Trudeau's dismal in 2015, a mere 2 months after his first election, of the very notion of a Canadian nationality. Canada was, in his view, a post-national state. Again, words right out of Trudeau's mouth. That's a quote. He said, Canada has no values. There is no mainstream. We are the first post-national state, lacking a core identity. After that, and Carney believes in that, by the way. Carney has repeatedly agreed with this. After that first kick at our understanding of the country, the unrebuked church burnings followed, along with the toppling of statues, cancel culture. It's run amok for the last 10 years and it needs to stop as well. And the very classification of Canada as a systematically racist non-country. Again, this is what Carney and Trudeau have been pushing. The flag was lowered to acknowledge so far unproven allegations of mass murders in Indian residents. I don't know anything about that. I don't pay any attention to it. I've heard the accusations. I've seen they haven't found any bodies. Do I think there was no racism back then? Oh, hell no. There was racism back then. There's still racism to this day for a lot of the Indigenous, you're not allowed to say Indian anymore, Indigenous population. But it's not, there is also a lot of problems within the Indigenous population that nobody ever talks about. It's not a one-sided problem. But other than that, I really don't know much about it. So, thus, the only surprise was how quickly the Liberals rediscovered the virtues of jingo patriotism 6 weeks ago. It's like I said, they wrapped themselves in the same flag that they have been burning, shitting on, destroying for the last decade, and invited all of Canada's to join them in resisting Trump. Really, as a Westerner, to what end? To perpetuate government by the very same people who, apart from their intellectual assault on Western values, have also, in the name of some Davos-led feel-good climate change carbon-reducing goal, done everything in the enormous federal power to blow up the Western energy industry. Absolute fact. Everything Trudeau and Carney have done to date has been to destroy the oil and gas industry. Not help it. And I don't believe for a second, if he got into power, he would honor any of his campaign promises about pipelines or anything. And we're starting to see policies coming out from his office saying exactly that. Maybe not for Western Canadians. It is essential to understand that the Liberal leadership has had no change of heart. I just said that. Only a hell of a scare and a change of leader. Exact. And that when Liberal leader Mark Carney suggests he may reverse course on some of Mr. Trudeau's legacy, you can't take him serious. You can't, because he's a pathological liar. Like, I really don't get why people haven't grasped onto this. He lies every single day, and it's been proven. It's not right-wing spin. It's not moderate spin. It's been proven. His promise to get more pipelines built, great, but it depends upon support from Quebec and Indigenous. He just put in his environmental minister into Quebec, who is on record saying that if the Liberals ever cancel the carbon tax or allow pipelines to be built, he will quit the party. So you're not getting pipelines through Quebec. That's why he appointed him to Quebec. Like, this is a lie. Carney says one thing to you on the campaign trail, but his actions tell you a vastly different story. His admission that the Liberal government has spent too much money and admitted too many immigrants at once, well, he just reversed that in Edmonton and said the Liberal government is not responsible for any of the hardships over the last 10 years, it's all Trump. Trump wasn't in power, for fuck's sakes. Good that he admits it, but he was right there beside Mr. Trudeau when the Liberal government was spending too much money and letting in too many immigrants. Exactly. He's been in politics for the last 5 years. No, and aware Western Canada cannot depend upon people to get us out of trouble. Whose negligence put us in trouble to begin with, even if Mr. Trump finds Liberals easier to deal with. Second, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. No question it was a bad break for the Conservatives when President Trump declared economic war on Canada. Yeah, Trump is responsible for the Liberal resurgence. Make no mistake about it. If Trump had just kept his fucking mouth shut until we had an election, Poilievre would have had a monster majority. But Trump doesn't want Poilievre in office. He wants Mark Carney in office. Until then, the ballot question was inflation and finding a way to help young people buy homes. The Conservatives own those issues, and they're not going away. However, the only honorable response to naked American economic aggression, well, I don't call it honorable, I call it stupid. The elbows up movement is quite possibly one of the most stupid, brain-dead, moronic responses to anything. You know, the Liberals always blame Poilievre for slogans. Elbows up is a slogan. It's just not a good slogan, which is why you hear some of the stupidest people in Canada constantly repeating it. It was also entirely predictable and a tribute to Poilievre's ability to read the national room over several years that the Liberals immediately began to steal his election promises and rhetoric. And this is very true, but they steal them, but they're worse policies. Like, take the homeowners. Poilievre says no GST or tax on homeowners. Like, if you're buying your first, your second, your third home, as long as it's your primary residence, you're not paying GST on it. But Carney, who is responsible for driving the home's costs up, says it's no removing GST for first-time home buyers. So if you're selling your starter home because your family grew, well, you don't get no GST on that second home that you're buying, only on the starter home. So that doesn't help families. Thus, an end to consumer and industrial carbon taxes. No, we know Carney's already announced this. He got rid of the consumer carbon tax down here, but he is going to hit you with 2 to 3 times larger industrial carbon tax. Well, what's going to happen is all those industries are going to offload that carbon tax onto the consumer. So it's still a consumer carbon tax. It's basic business 101. Getting rid of the increase to capital gains tax. Yeah, he did that, but that's not really a good thing. I mean, on one hand, it's not a good thing. It allows foreign investments to come in and buy up property and everything, thus increasing property values, which is what Carney wants, because Carney go back to the conflicts of interest. Real estate is a big part of his portfolio. Every promise made is a confession of failures past. That's true. Every time he adopts a conservative policy, he's admitting the past 10 years of him and Trudeau have been wrong. Why would you elect somebody who's been wrong? Mr. Poilievre has been saying all this for years, and when voters are reminded of it, they will remember. I'm not sure about that. Again, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa. We're talking about some really fucking stupid people. Not all of them. Don't get me wrong. I got friends in Toronto, but the mass majority of voters in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, they're fucking idiots. They don't live in the real world. They never have. They also instinctively understand that when the Liberals pick up a conservative line, their hearts are not in it. That's true. Or you would hope it's true. I think what they understand is the Liberals are saying this to try to get votes, and they have no plans on carrying through on it. For dependability, these Liberal promises belong with the check is in the mail. Exactly. Westerners also know that for better or worse, this tariff war will pass. Yep. And then what? The Liberals' version of direct society led by Eastern aristocrats? No, it won't be led by Eastern aristocrats. And this is the funny part about the East is they don't want to admit this. It's led by Davos, elitists, WEF, the UN. That is who will be controlling Canada. Not the Eastern voters, not the Western voters, not any people in Canada. It'll be Davos, WEF, and the UN. That is who will control Canada. I mean, Trudeau already signed over our military to the UN first day he took office 10 years ago. Somehow, Mr. Poilievre's picture of a nice home on a safe street protected by our brave troops, etc., seems something better to aspire to, and once gained a satisfaction that lasts. Above all, they know that it's unlikely Mr. Carney. Everything Mr. Poilievre has said or done shows that he actually believes in his own words. Yeah, Carney doesn't believe it. He's lying. He is a pathological liar. Mr. Poilievre is authentic. We cannot say the same for any Liberal who has aspired to lead their party and now the country. I disagree with that. I actually do think, I don't agree with her policies. I do not agree with with the modern day liberals. But I do think Ruby Dalla, she believed in what she was saying. She wasn't lying to people, and that caused her problems within her own party, and now she's out. But I do believe she believed in what she was saying. She wasn't lying to Canadians. She was misguided. She had the wrong view, but she wasn't lying. Carney is lying. So really in Western Canada, the ballot question is not who can deal best with Americans over the next few months, but who you can trust to lead Canada for the next 4 years. Or put another way, how can any Canadian forget in 2 months what the Liberals have done to them in the last 10 years? Yeah, like if you ignore what happened in the last 10 years, you're a moron. All right, so now we're going to get into polling. As I've said many times, I don't believe the polling. So here we have 2 Liberals, Doug Ford and Christina Freeland. Buddy. Canada 3-3. Now Canada 338 is an aggregate polling company. So they take all of the polls, whether they're fake or not, put them together and come out with a number. Well, that's a false narrative because you got Ecos and you got mainstream who are just creating fictional numbers. I mean, Ecos has fucking Liberals winning a majority in Alberta and Saskatchewan. That's never happened in my 59 years. And trust me, I live in Alberta. Even the left wingers in Edmonton are not going to vote for Carney. So if you're taking their results and putting it into the pool, you've already corrupted your pool. Then you add in Leger, Nanos, Angus Reid, and I'm forgetting the other one now, but they're all funded by the Liberals. And if you look over history, you can take their polls and you can raise the Conservative, even when the Conservatives lose, you can take the Conservative number and you can raise it by 5 to 10 points, and you can take the Liberal number and you can drop it 5. The bias always favors the Liberals with those pollsters. So again, if you're including their numbers, you are corrupting your data unless you are adjusting for their bias. And 338 is not. They are just taking all the numbers. So there you have 6 pollsters that are corrupting the overall data. So you can't take the data as fact. So yeah, so 338 is now predicting a Liberal majority, but I don't believe that for a second. Again, the eye test, and you see Hugh G, are you really falling for this? Do you think the elections are real? They said Kamala was set to win as well. Look how that turned out. If Conservatives get a majority, great. If Liberals get back in, Alberta is out. Yeah, I don't think Alberta's out. Daniel Smith's already taken steps to block Carney should he get back in. Yeah, so you can't take these polls as serious. There is one pollster I trust, and even that I take into account the margin of error, but that's Abacus. And we have the latest Abacus poll from yesterday. Do you expect Pierre to win big in this election? New poll shows small lead for Pierre on the eve of the 2025 election call. Abacus. Now, the reason I trust Abacus above the rest is because history shows us they're usually fairly close to the actual result. Again, you don't have that 5 to 10 point bias that Nanos, Leger, Angus Reid, and the other one, for some reason I just can't remember its name right now, have historically, and you don't have the fictional numbers of Ecos and Main Street. So yeah, the most recent poll done has the Conservatives still leading. And this is before a debate. And that's an important point because whether you like Poilievre or you like this guy right here, I can never remember his name. He's the bloc leader. They have him at 6%. Him and Poilievre are absolutely going to destroy Carney in the French and the English debates. So this 6% is going to grow to probably around 9%. Jugmeat has been coming out heavy at Carney. He's completely abandoned trying to go after Poilievre other than stupid comments about funding billionaires, which he's not backed up in the least. But his 12% is going to grow to probably 16 to 18%. And that's all going to come off of the Carney Liberals. And then you're going to have the debates, and Carney's avoiding his conflict of interest by calling the early election. Poilievre and this guy are not going to let that slide. They are going to call him publicly on the mainstream media. And I do believe you're probably going to see this number 36 drop to around 25 is my gut feeling by the time we go to the polls. All right, so we got Pierre Poilievre here. He's going to stand up to Donald Trump. So let's just hear what he has to say.
Is it time to put Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, honor hard work, build homes, cut taxes, lock up criminals, secure our borders, unleash resources to bring home our jobs, and stand up to Donald Trump from a position of strength? Now, on that subject, I know a lot of people are worried, angry, and anxious, and with good reason. as a result of the president's unacceptable threats against our country. You worry about your job and the sovereignty of our nation. And you're angry at the feeling of betrayal that these unacceptable words and tariffs have made us all experience. I share your anger and I share the worry for our future. But I also draw great resolve in knowing that we can transform the anxiety and anger into action. First of all, let me be clear. We will never be an American state. We will always be a sovereign and self-reliant country. The action we must take is to become that nation that's strong, self-reliant, and sovereign, capable of standing on its own 2 feet and standing up to the Americans. We will stare down this unprovoked threat with steely resolve because, be assured, Canadians are tough, we are hardy, and we stand up for ourselves. I will protect Canada, and I will always put our country first.
So yeah, it baffles me why the Eastern Canada can't understand that message. That message is really straightforward to me. He's not pro-Trump. He's pro-Canada. He's not pro-Davos. He's pro-Canada. So why is this so hard for Eastern Canada to comprehend? You know, they keep accusing him of being Trump. He's not Trump. He's never been Trump. Trump doesn't like him. Oh, and here we go. Jasmine Lane says, Mark Carney confirms he will not meet with Donald Trump ahead of the election. So for the next 2 months, there's going to be no negotiation whatsoever on tariffs. So we are fucked for the next 2 months, thanks to Mark Carney. Until Trump recognizes Canada as a sovereign country. Get over it, buddy. He called you a name. Is your skin so fucking thin that you run away and hide from a name calling? He has to say it before he meets with him. Like, come on, just move on and negotiate already. When asked, so you won't speak to him, Carney? No meetings. We can always talk, and then abruptly ended the questions and walked back inside, which is what Carney does. Carney does not like questions, which is one of the reasons why I think he's going to get absolutely destroyed in the debates. He always runs and hide. He can't do that in the debate. So yeah, but you see, that's a quote right there from Carney. He will not be speaking to Trump or the Americans until after the election. And even after the election, he won't be speaking to them until they say sorry for hurting his tender little feelings. Oh, and here we have the other one is Carney, Trudeau found to be heavily linked to Beijing, WEF in the new expose. I'll be doing a future video on this issue because the ties that Carney, Trudeau, and the Liberals have to China are really concerning. And they're fact. They're not right-wing propaganda. It's fact. Most of his donors for his leadership campaign and now for his campaign are China businessmen from China, not from Canada. So yeah. Okay, here's what I was talking about earlier. Do you support Mark Carney's EV mandate? This is going through. If he's elected, this goes through. By 2035, you won't be allowed to buy a gas or even a hybrid vehicle, no matter the cost, no matter the lack of charging stations, no matter if it works for your family. This government knows best plan will raise costs and end in blackouts. Yeah, we know this. The electrical grid in Canada cannot support these charging. So we already have blackouts in some areas happen. So here's the news report on it. I haven't watched this, so.
The federal government has unveiled its roadmap to phase out the sale of gas and diesel passenger vehicles. After 2035, you won't be able to buy new ones anymore. The regulations will require automakers to sell 20% zero-emission cars by 2026, 60% by 2030, and 100% by 2035. As Abigail Beeman reports, it is a big shift, and some are concerned about affordability and a shortage of electricity.
All new cars, no emissions by 2035.
To ensure we don't get left behind and that we keep driving.
This is the idiot I was telling you. This is when he was Environment and Climate Change Minister. He's now in Quebec. Carney put him in Quebec to block pipelines. So whatever Carney says to you on the campaign trail, this guy right here, this idiot will say no. And that's why he was appointed. Again, actions speak louder than words.
Driving towards the opportunities being created.
And more people are driving electric.
No, they
According
aren't.
to Statistics Canada, in the third quarter of this year, the percentage of electric vehicles registered jumped to 12.1. British Columbia and Quebec drive the most, already meeting the 2026 goal of.
British Columbia has the environment to like it actually makes sense for electric vehicles in British Columbia. They have that California environment. So they're not dealing with, like here in Alberta, in the wintertime, we will hit minus 40 degrees, minus 50 degrees. Up here, you'll hit minus 70 degrees. Electric vehicles don't work. And should they stall out in those temperatures, you're dead. Gas doesn't stall out unless you run out of gas, but that's in your control. The weather is not causing you to stall out. Electric, like basically, where is it? I guess this is right around here is the Ontario border, right along here. So anything west of here to here, electric is not, and then all the way up here, electric is not a viable option in wintertime.
20%.
There are real challenges to electrification, including affordability and charging infrastructure.
The auto industry questions how realistic the plan is with so far to go on infrastructure and cost and uncertainty around available and affordable electricity.
Charging at home is a challenge for a lot of people that live in multifamily settings.
The government suggests it's working on all of it with a ramp up of charging infrastructure and claims EVs will have price parity with traditional cars within a decade. Currently, there's still a large upfront cost difference, and not everyone is ready.
Okay, I don't believe that for a second, but even if we take them at their word, which we know Liberals are pathological liars, but even if we take them at their word, it's still going to cost you $15,000 every 5 years for a replacement battery. So there is no cost parity. I drive a 2013 Dodge Journey. I've replaced my battery once in the last 12 years, and it cost me, I think it was $400. It wasn't $15,000. $15,000 is more than that vehicle cost me new, or well, 3 years old. It was 3 years old when I bought it. So $15,000 for a battery is more than my vehicle cost when I bought it. How is that price parity? See, this is the double talk that the Liberals always leave out of the equation. And a lot of people don't look into the equation.
To plug in.
And I don't completely trust them yet.
I could be okay with that, like if I can afford it. I like my car. I'm good.
Canada's Electric Vehicle Society calls the announcement a step in the right direction. And while it
So this same society has seen record collapse of electric vehicle manufacturers now that the subsidies have come off of. This one is a little bit old, this video, but electric vehicles this past year, a lot of companies have closed down because they lost their government subsidies.
acknowledging the same concerns, believes industry, private sector, and government need to work together for a fix.
These rural highways where there isn't infrastructure, there's grid issues, capacity issues, and just cost issues, right? Like, you know, running cables to the side of a highway in the middle of nowhere is expensive.
Yeah, so the reason I showed you this video is because this is already been announced. Mark Carney is going ahead with this. Like, this is an older video, but this entire video is still accurate because Carney has announced it. This is part of this election. This is an important issue on these elections. So yeah, I keep mentioning the Liberals and their record. So let's look at their record. 2015 to 2025 progress, Liberal. Worst housing affordability ever. As I said, Mark Carney benefits from that. Conflict of interest. Skyrocketing national debt. Yeah, Trudeau and Carney doubled our national debt in 10 years. Doubled it. So 100 years in the making. Got doubled in just a decade. Rampant inflation, that's tied to the skyrocketing national debt. Homelessness in tent cities. Yeah, you just have to walk down a street in the spring, the summer, or the fall, and these are everywhere nowadays. When I was growing up in Edmonton, I was born in Calgary. I grew up in rural Alberta, and then I moved to Edmonton in 1981, I think it was. And I left Edmonton in 1998. I had never seen a tent city, and I could count on two hands the number of homeless people I'd seen. I come back in 2018, they're everywhere, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But it's because of these guys. It's not. As much as I hate Rachel Notley, it wasn't her fault. It wasn't Jason Kenney, another person I don't like. And it's not Daniel Smith. It is the federal Liberals who caused this. Violent crime rate soaring. You see it in the news every day. Opioid deaths on the rise, but Carney says we don't have a problem with opioids. We do. We have an epidemic going through Canada. And it's on the Liberals again. Healthcare system breakdown. Okay, this one affects me personally. As some people know, I am disabled and I am on disability. And I'm hoping my YouTube channel will change that, but until it does, I'm still on disability. Under the Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney Liberals, Health Canada's constitution states that the federal government and the provinces pay a 50-50 split on healthcare. Under the Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney Liberals, those transfers have fallen to a record low 21% from the feds. So everybody, and it's not just Alberta, all the provinces, they blame their politicians, they blame their premiers, and some of those premiers like David Eby in BC are definitely to blame. But the real blame is the Trudeau Carney Liberals. Imagine if Danielle Smith in Alberta had 29%, so over double of what she's getting currently from the feds to put back into the healthcare system. Until that happens, you can't really hold her accountable because she's working on 21% of the funding she's supposed to be having. That's where the problem is, and it's on them. Bank accounts freezes during protests. Yeah, they did that to the truckers. They didn't do that to BLM. They didn't do that to the idiots, the Hamas terrorists that are protesting in our streets currently, but to the peaceful truckers, yeah, they froze bank accounts, stole money, bankrupt people. It's unbelievable. It was China. You think back to the China protests. It was the same policies. Ethics scandals. It's way too long to list. I would have to make a 4-hour video just to cover Justin's ethics scandals, and that's not even talking about Carney and Freeland and all the rest of them. Just Justin. Censorship of citizens. We've seen it again. I made a video on it. Elizabeth May, Jagmeet Singh, Mark Carney, Trudeau, Freeland, they want to do away with YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook. And by do away, I mean they want to censor them so that only the state-approved message is allowed to be put out on them. So they want to turn us into North Korea and China. And yes, that is their words. Well, not the North Korea and China part, but the rest of it is their words, not mine. I've made a video on this. You can go watch the video. I have quotes from all of them. Food bank use at record highs. Excessive government spending. Yeah, well, that goes to the rampant inflation. 25-year high interest rates. Again, that goes to the rampant inflation. Reckless immigration policy. That goes to the opioid deaths and the criminals. This is the Liberal record for the last 10 years. And Carney is a part of this for the last 5 years. Why would you elect somebody with that record? I don't care if he's telling you to put your elbows up. Why would you elect somebody with that factual record? And the final one is, again, the Liberals keep telling you that Trump and Poilievre, they even have a few commercials out about it. Trump and Poilievre are the same people and blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Trump has been highly and vocally critical of Poilievre and hasn't said a single negative word about Mark Carney. Take note of that, Canada. I mean, again, actions speak louder than words. Trump wants Mark Carney in office. And here, Canada does not have executive orders. So the pausing the carbon tax was all theater. But this is why it was theater. Do you see it here? Do you see the similarity? For the U.S., it's far more convenient to have a compromised central banker, regardless of the political leanings, in charge than a principled, adopted, middle-class nobody from Canada who truly doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, so there you go. I don't get it. I just don't get why Carney has any support. Nothing he's done or said is viable or reasonable, and he's not going to follow through on most of it, and we know this. If you have a mind, you know this. So anyway, that's my election coverage for this. Oh God, it's a long video. Sorry about that, but that's my election coverage for the election announcement. To me, there's only one choice. It's Poilievre. I have to hope and pray that he carries through on what he's promised, but I know Carney won't. There's the difference. So anyway, if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe, please. I'm trying to grow the channel, and your like, subscribe, and shares would be greatly appreciated. If you didn't like the video, leave a dislike, and always leave a comment. Don't worry, I don't swing my cane too strongly anymore if I dislike your comment. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Bye.